Hola. I've used up all my Spanish now. And I have no idea if she said I was good or bad. I feel like Madonna. This is great. I may sing later if things go badly. It is an absolute privilege to be here with you this morning. And can I say, it's a testament to your passion as educators that you've given up Saturday morning to be here today. I congratulate you. Give yourselves a round of applause, please. That's as good as it gets. I have nothing else to say. I'd like to start by sharing with you my education philosophy. People now are looking at this thinking, oh dear, this is a sausage sandwich. You're looking at me now thinking, now I understand why you're the shape you are. I had an experience a few years ago which for me summed up the problem we all face in education. I was at an airport in England very early in the morning, about 5:30, due to fly to speak to a group of the world's bankers, some of the world's bankers. You know RBS, the bank yeah, we all know RBS, right? I was due to go and speak to the bank, RBS. This was before the big financial crash. And I was due to go and speak to them about taking risks. So don't listen to me now. Anyway, I was at the airport at 5:30 in the morning, and I was hungry. And at the airport I was at, there was one restaurant. And I went up, I queued, and I got to the front of the queue, and what I wanted was a sausage sandwich. And I got to the front of the queue, and I was met by a young man who had been through the Western education system. And he stood there, he was about 18 or 19 years old, but he was very good at his job. He had 5 gold stars on his name badge for customer service. So I stand there and he says, "Hello, how may I help you this morning?" I said, "I'd like a sausage sandwich, please." And he did that thing, I'm sure it happens in Spain too. You know when teenagers aren't happy? They do that thing. They go like this. I can't do it. I'm too old now, right? But he went. I said, "What?" He said, "We don't sell sausage sandwiches." And I was looking behind him. And behind him there was a pile of sausages, right? And bread here. So I'm looking at the sausages, and I look at the bread, and I look back at him, and I go, and he said, "Oh, I can see your problem." He said, "You can only have a sausage and bread as part of a full breakfast." I said, "I don't want a full breakfast. I want a sausage sandwich." He said, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't serve you one. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have a word with the chef and see if we can sort out your problem." So I went. I waited, and he went to talk to the chef, and he came back. And he said to me, "I think I've sorted your problem." I said, "Great, thank you." He said, "I can't sell you a sausage sandwich, but what I can do is I can sell you a sausage and I can sell you a bread roll." I thought to myself, oh dear, I was now heading to the cash register. Do you have IKEA in Spain? With my IKEA flat pack sausage sandwich that I had to make myself, right? Thinking to myself as an educator, oh my goodness me, what have I done to you? You see, my point is this. His education had prepared him for a world of certainty. It had prepared him to understand that you're set a challenge, and your job is to answer that challenge exactly in one way. Isn't it? Education is like this. We have qualifications at the end of the journey. And what we train our children is to understand that they have to head for the same thing in the same way with the same answer every time. And the interesting thing is that this young man had probably been a very good student at school, hadn't he? Because he'd learned to answer the question. He'd learned to sort out the challenge. He'd learned that there were rules and one approach for everything that we do. Yet the minute I came along and asked him to think differently about the rules, and I set him a different challenge, he couldn't cope. He didn't know what to do. He panicked. And one of my great challenges, I think, for all of us in education is for what I'm going to say this morning, for what I know you heard yesterday from the incredibly eminent speakers you heard from yesterday, is the same thing. The fact is that we can no longer educate our children for a world of certainty, because a world of certainty no longer exists, does it? The world has changed beyond any recognition. And what we know now is that certain routes, our education system was created to take children through certain routes with definite outcomes, wasn't it? The idea that if you do well at school, you can go to university. And if you go to university and you get a degree, you can come out of university and get a great job. Doesn't exist anymore, does it? In the UK, last year, I think there were approximately 70 university graduates applying for every graduate level job. So the certainty's gone. So we have to create a broader brush. We have to create a broader experience of education to prepare our children for their futures. Now, this was the school that I was privileged enough to be the principal of. I took over this school in 2001, and at the time, it was considered to be one of the worst schools in the United Kingdom. And the only reason I got the job as school principal was I was the only person who turned up for the interview. They had to give it to me. I was a photocopier repairman, and they gave me the job as school principal. Now, what's interesting about this school was that for years, it had done what it was told. Not very well, but it had delivered systems. It had delivered strategies. It was doing the things it was told to do to make sure the children passed the exams. The problem was they weren't passing the exams. They were struggling. And so what happened was more and more pressure was put on the school to achieve those exam results. And interesting, I'm sure many of you who are teachers will recognize this. What had happened over a number of years was the passion of those teachers had disappeared because they felt they were no longer empowered. They felt they were no longer in control of sharing the things that had brought them into the profession in the first place. You know that feeling we all have as educators when we make the decision that we want a career as a teacher, when we're 15, 16, 17 years old, and it burns in here, doesn't it? Because we want to change the lives for the children that we're going to be privileged enough to care for and work with. And what was happening in this school was that passion had been driven out of the teachers because all of a sudden they were being asked to focus on statistics, on outcomes. And as a result, I think the biggest challenge we face in education is this. As a profession, we have become